Welcome, 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 my lovely brothers and sisters. Welcome, welcome on this beautiful, joyful Friday morning, or maybe for other people, afternoon or evening. Um, Welcome to another live reading. I am still reading from the Wes Penry's book, The Orion Book, Volume 2. As you all can see, we will go through chapter 10, which is titled The True versus Artificial 3-Unit Consciousness. And we also go through chapter 12, which is titled Different Kinds of Humans. So let us start because there are, I think, 12 or 13 pages in total. All right. A deep dive into the 3-unit consciousness. In the Orion book, volume 1, I coined the term 3UC, which stands for 3-unit composite, or composite consciousness, i.e. soul, mind, and spirit. Body. So, i.e. soul, mind, and spirit body. These are the 3-unit composite beings. Being a unique 3-unit composite means we are human because we are the only beings in the universe structured in this way. Simply put, we are immortal because our true bodies, which I sometimes call the Namlu'u bodies, are our spirit. In addition, we have a soul and we have a mind, like all other developing species in the greater universe. But we are, you can say, between quotation marks, fused into one unit made up of 3 components. So before we move on, let us recap a little. Our spirit body is per definition made of spirit energy or spirit fire from Sophia's spirit. Our spirit body comprises trillions of fires, which is defined as bioelectricity, assembled into a formed and shaped body, the so-called Namlu'u body. The Queen did this. The first fires are forming our avatar, which is our true spirit body. And it has a certain shape in it. And it is in the Ka, the spiritual universe, viewed as tall and slender, with black skin and usually with red hair. It is purely ethereal, thus spiritual. There is nothing physical about it, like in physical universe. This avatar also makes it possible for us, the Namlu'u, to travel the universe, bringing the spirit body with us. So the Queen made our avatars to operate in the Ka, the spiritual universe, immediately, while avatars that are planet-bound and star-bound lack this body. They are mind and soul and physical body, and in its essential form, their soul is shaped like an orb. In their cases, soul and mind make up one unit, a 2-unit composite, and the physical body is separate and eventually deteriorates, just like our sapiens body. When the beings in the developing worlds choose to explore the Ka, the spiritual universe, and its spiritual dimensions, they must first abandon their body in the physical realm forever, and they now become a two-unit composite, so soul and mind making up their avatar. We were born in the spirit realm as a three-unit composites, and our bodies were never physical. In fact, they are immortal spirit. Therefore, on Tiamat, we had potential access to the entire Ka, or spiritual universe, from the get-go. We were planet bound in the sense that our 3UC's were to develop there from, between quotation marks, infancy. But we could easily shoot off spirit fires into the spiritual universe, or the Ka, to explore the Ka at the same time as we stayed stationary on Tiamat. Once we learned how to do it, although we never got the chance to get to the point of graduation and leave Tiamat the way it was intended, the purpose was that once we graduated from the Tiamat experiment, we could do what the two-unit composites on the developing worlds did. We could leave Tiamat. The difference is that once we leave our home world, we take our bodies with us. While the two UCs leave their physical bodies behind, to be human, we must fulfill the criteria of having soul, mind, and spirit body. If one of these components is missing, we are not human. The way the Queen created us, we can travel the universe, not only as a 2UC, but also as a 3-unit composite. We can therefore think ourselves to any planet or star in the galaxy, land on or in it, and still keep the shape of Namlu'u bodies. As we have learned, the soul is defined as the vehicle or vessel that keeps the fires together, forming an avatar so beings can move around in the Ka. The spirit body is our human avatar. Our spirit body is constructed as such that it is forming a natural avatar. We humans can shape shift, just like the two-unit composites, but we shapeshift with our spirit body. When we then go back to our original shape, we form the Namlu'u body, while the two-unit composites, go back to the shape of an orb. However, it should be mentioned regarding the TUCs, the two UCs, out in the Ka, that it is common that these beings form an avatar that is very similar to the physical body they once possessed, because that is what they are familiar with. When we, the 3-unit composite, leave our original world, and in the current case the Earth, we already possess spirit and can therefore immediately start working as creators in the Ka, or spiritual universe, on a level we can manage until we learn more. And we will theoretically have access to all dimensions in Orion. I wrote theoretically because after having spent thousands of years in this destructive construct, we might need to be somewhat rehabilitated before we go out there and let loose our creativity. At least this is my presumption. So the two Unit composites, as discussed elsewhere, leave their developing world without a body and they can enjoy what others already created in the Ka, the spiritual worlds, in contrast to the denser and more restricted physical worlds. The spiritual worlds were, of course, created by the Queen in conjunction with evolved two unit composites who eventually earned spirit and started creating. Many of the two unit composites who recently have left the physical realm will eventually evolve in the Ka and improve themselves to where they can get access to the higher Ka or spiritual universe dimensions where they can use spirit around them to create, but they can never gain a spirit body. Therefore, they are not immortal, but still live as long as the Orion universe exists. Or someone destroys them with a Terminator weapon, which is very rare. So we humans would, in the spirit, survive the destruction of the universe. That is how the Orion universe is set up to function. Broadly speaking, it comprises a physical realm of dense energy which forms matter, and then there is another part that is pure spirit, energy, in which advanced beings, called creators, can create what they prefer. A deep dive into the artificial 3-unit composites. As usual, Enki, or En.ki, has mimicked virtually everything the Queen of the Stars created in the Ka and implemented it in the Matrix. However, the Queen is of spirit and Enki is not, because Enki is a 2-unit composite. Therefore, Enki cannot create a universe because he lacks spirit. He lacks a spirit body, such as Orion, because he lacks the main component, spirit. Thus, he must use technology to mimic the true magnificence of the spirit realm. So now we get the understanding why we see everything being uh, technological. Now we see how the entire creation is mimicked through technology. So we are more and more living in an artificial world because everything that the Queen of the Stars has created is now being mimicked through technology. So that is what it is. Not only does he mimic, he also inverts what the Queen of the Stars created so he can keep us trapped here. By inverting the original creation, he makes us believe falsely that what is true is a lie and what is a lie is true. Yeah, so this is exactly what we see. We see this upside down reality. Yeah, everything that is a lie is true, and everything what is true is a lie. Everything that is good is bad. Everything that is bad is good, and so on. If someone makes a being believe the lies, that will, of course, keep that person trapped in the lies. Hence, we must detach from everything in the matrix because everything here is a mirror of what is in the Ka or spiritual universe. Please ponder that. So now let us dive into the artificial soul and the artificial spirit. The artificial soul and artificial spirit are frequently discussed in the Nag Hammadi Gnostic texts, but no one knows what these terms mean because no one who does not have the information about the true three-unit composite can understand what the Gnostic scribes wrote down based on these so-called GODs dictations, Enki and Marduk, and sometimes Thoth, i.e. the ludicrous Hermetic Gnostic texts. So let us dig into it. Now we know that our true selves comprise soul, mind, and body, where the body is of spirit. Even in the matrix, we are composed of three fake parts: a fake soul, a fake mind, and a fake spirit body. So let us see what Enki did to create this illusion. We, the true three-unit composites are inverting, sorry, we, the true three-unit composites are investing our spirit energy in the matrix, completely merged into this holographic simulation called falsely 3D. Just like a player is engrossed in a computer game, a metaphor I have used in a million times, but it works brilliantly. In the beginning of the Matrix, when we had become engaged in Enki's Matrix game, mostly because of sex and other pleasures and excitements, he closed the trap, and since then, we, the three-unit composites, are investing our energy in this simulation. Mostly unawares, we are doing so. We who have learned who we are also aware that our real three-unit composite is locked into this system, but we know how to break free. Still, most 3UC's do not. So Enki, the mimicker, created a false soul, i.e. a false avatar that we must use in the matrix. And that soul/avatar is the astral body, which also is a blueprint for the physical body. Therefore, our physical body is shaped in accordance with our false soul/avatar. They are mirrors of each other. One is metaphysical and the other is physical. This is why you look the way you look. Enki is creating the souls/avatars and forms them in the astral into astral bodies. The astral body is a container, as it were, which the locked in part of ourselves filled with spirit fires before each lifetime. Again, we can compare this with playing a computer game. When you play, you get an avatar within the game that you will possess and control. Then, while playing, your avatar might die, and you need to possess a new avatar and start over from scratch. This is basically how reincarnation works. So you die on earth and go into the astral in your astral body, the artificial soul, which is shaped exactly like your physical body, containing your spirit fires and others fire too, as we shall see, while you are living in the matrix, comma, these spirit fires mainly contain the memories of your most recent lifetime, because they are the fires that were operating inside the cells of your Homo sapiens body, recording what was happening in that specific life. Usually, the artificial soul that the true 3-unit composite inhabits goes through the tunnel in the astral and into the false light, and the memory of the recent lifetime slowly fades. And there is a reason for this. The astral workers want you to be somewhat amnesiac when you enter the recycle center, where you first go through a so-called life review, which is a very vicious process. Your recent life, which you by now only partially remember, is replayed for you. Although your good deeds will be acknowledged, the bad things you have done or the not so good choices you made will be emphasized. The astral workers then suggest you to go back to Earth and take care of those issues in a new lifetime to straighten yourselves out. This is what they call karma. Ironically, most of this so-called karma is not even yours. Some of it is other things the astral workers make up, and yet other things are the overlord's karma. Well, isn't that handy for them that we are working out their karma so they don't have to do it themselves? The overlords commit crimes and we make up for them, thinking they are our crimes. Therefore, the overlords can swear themselves free because we take on their wrongdoings, creating the exact trauma bond they want us to create, one between us and the overlords, just like narcissists here on earth. They create a shared fantasy and a trauma bond that glues the abuser and the victim together. When such an energy bond exists, the overlords can more easily manipulate us both directly, like narcissists do, and by proxy, which is through the elite bloodlines. And below them, the politicians, the media, the educational system, and all the rest of it. This is partially how they do it. They are preparing to ride our avatar to Orion by merging with our minds and thus taking over our spirit bodies. Once they are in complete control over our minds, they are by definition also in control of our spirit bodies. So, it should be noted here that karma is usually complete nonsense. I was told by the Orion source that karma is only a valid if we humans believe it is valid. If we disregard the karma projected unto us in the afterlife, it won't affect us and is considered void. One could say that this karma is the soul contract between the overlords and us. The soul contract so many truth seekers try to break. It is easy to break. You just choose to break these contracts all at once because they were never valid. They were forced upon us using lies and narcissistic manipulation, projection, and gaslighting. I disregard all so-called karma, and I advise others to do this too, although it of course is up to the individual. But doesn't karma exist though? If someone commits a crime, doesn't he or she eventually get caught and has to pay for it, whether through jail time or worse, depending on the crime? As the Orion source said, if this were true, the overlords would have been caught and put to justice a long time ago. The discarnate, now feeling shameful and guilty over what they might or might not have done in the previous life, agrees to go back to Earth in yet another incarnation. Then the astral workers destroy the entire avatar, the artificial soul, and gather the spirit fires within it, mix them with other people's spirit fire in a big soup and places this mix in a new avatar who remembers nothing from previous existences. This will eventually create conflicts in the incarnated person's next life. The avatar, i.e., the astral body, now has a new blueprint that looks different from the last incarnation, and then they shoot this avatar into a baby body within the same seed line in which they existed before. The spirit fires within the avatar are now mixed with others, but the three unit composite controlling the avatar from so-called outside the matrix, i.e., still make up the genuine you. You are the player whose energy is contained within the matrix avatar. Then you, between quotation marks, wake up in a new sapiens body shaped after the new astral blueprint, and you are confused and scared. You remember nothing, and your new personality is formed by what you learn from your parents, your environment, your ancestral DNA, and to various degree, mostly to a tiny degree, what your genuine three-unit composite might bring to the table in the sense of, between quotation marks, soul development. So where and what is the artificial spirit body in all this? You might have guessed it. It is the sapiens body. Of course, thus the expression, the body is your temple. This is also why many people, between quotation marks, worship their body or other people's bodies, are vain about them and afraid of death. The spirit body is not supposed to die, but in this matrix our bodies die. What a mockery. Those with the least spiritual development who do not believe in an afterlife think they will die forever when their sapiens body dies, because somewhere deep inside they know the body is what should make us eternal. If the physical body dies, many people think they cease to exist. This is where fear of death comes from, which the wing makers call the death implant. So in summary, a genuine three-unit composite comprises a true soul, a true mind, and a true spirit body in one unit. This being is immortal. B, An artificial three-unit composite comprises an artificial soul, an artificial mind, and the astral body, which is an artificial Homo sapiens body, and an artificial spirit body, the sapiens body, in one unit, but the entire artificial three-unit consciousness of a three-unit composite, is mortal and can only function within the matrix. In between lives, we were a fresh slate, a new beginning, something that had never really been done before this matrix, a being that had the opportunity to express itself in a way that would not hurt others, with 100% free will involved. No proxy. That was the Orion-Khan agreement for this construct. The Khans stated we could never achieve this, and given the chance, we would mess it up. So they bet against Orion on this one, and from what beings outside the matrix are noticing, they are proving their point. We have messed it up, but we most likely wouldn't if the Khan kings were not involved, which they are to a massive degree. Thus, where did the no proxy part of the agreement go? They have controlled us for thousands and thousands and thousands of years through our emotions. The Queen of the Stars gave us this wide range of emotions that served us on Tiamat so we could complete our task. We were supposed to experience our emotions and be able to control them. Here in the matrix, the emotions usually control us, at least until we have done our inner healing work. The invaders have used both our gifts of emotions and free will against us. For some narcissistic reason, the Khan kings think they proved their point when we messed up. So I will direct the following to Marduk and Enki. Let's get this straight and help me understand here. You give us a fake life review from a life we barely remember because our memories fade in the astral. Apparently afraid that we would actually make it, regardless of the traps and obstacles and setups you, Marduk and Enki, have set up for us. You need to implant karma that is yours into the being with a blank slate, memory wipe, and send him or her back with amnesia to a so-called, between quotation marks, free will life on Earth. Sure enough, we, between quotation marks, mess up. Is anybody surprised here? No. And where is free will here on Earth? Exactly. Do we have free will? This is something we need to ponder upon. I don't see it. Isn't there something wrong with this picture? Yes, it does. And here is something else that is completely screwed up. The payment plan to pay off the debt that the Khans agreed with together with the Orion Council was that if we humans can evolve here on Earth by using our energies wisely and positively and for the good of all, the Khans let us go, no strings attached. But if we do not evolve, they recycle us over and over and over and over again until we do. However, when we start agreeing with the Khans, wittingly and unwittingly, we become theirs, because now we no longer want to evolve, but instead follow the Khans' directives. Thus, Orion has no claim on us, but the Khans do. This is Khan logic. But the mother is tired of this and wants the loan paid off in full, i.e., let everybody free. But the Khans cannot comply to this because they would obviously lose humanity, and also the pay in full request came too fast. And if they lose humanity, they lose their living batteries to keep themselves alive. And the Khans do not have enough forces to fight the Mother's forces because they want to start a galactic cosmic war against Orion, and so against the Queen of the Stars, who has created the human soul group, who has created us humans. So we need to wake up, and we need to say enough is enough. We are not going along any longer with all the plans of the Khans, the Khan kings, which is Enki, Marduk, and so on. We need to stop this, and we can do if we say enough is enough. But we need to do this as a human soul group. They also do not have enough energy to use in such a project. So now the Khans are referring to the law of so-called free will, and they tell Orion that the human soul group agreed with them. Is that the case? I cannot remember this. We were never forced to agree with them. The Khans say, but we did it out of so-called free will, which was not free will at all. Or so they claim. Therefore, in the Khans' minds, it is not their fault, but ours. And therefore, we will be the ones, per definition, who must pay off the debt. It is true that most humans want to stay here, though it is, of course, out of ignorance. So Orion would break the law of free will from the Khan's perspective if Orion invades and forces us to leave the matrix. This is complete nonsense, but fact remains we need to wake up as a group before Orion can intervene. So we as human soul group need to say, Orion, help us, intervene. We have enough of all these Khan Kings games. We are done with this matrix life. Please, Orion, intervene on our behalf. We need to speak this out as an entire human soul group. Enki and Marduk and the Khan kings abused free will and used it against us, and therefore they broke the contract. When a contract is broken, it is void and the debt must be paid in full. This is exactly what Orion now forces upon the overlords. The Khans are desperate because they do not know what Orion will do, and neither do we humans. But the fact is, they have yet to set us free, and from what we notice, taking metaverse and the singularity into consideration, have no intention to set us free. The Khan kings, Enki, Marduk, and all their cohorts, they want to have us all imprisoned forever. Let that sink into your mind. They want us entrapped here in this matrix forever. They continue like before, but at greater speed. They sense they have little time to complete their tasks, something we are also experiencing because everything is speeding up. Now, and then the last, Carl Gustav Jung's archetypes. Carl Gustav Jung was a brilliant man. Not only did he deeply explore our psyche, but he was also a great philosopher. He was the one who sorted the human mind into different archetypes, something that since then has been commonly used in character development by fiction writers. The entire hero's journey novel trope is based on the principles of archetypes. In addition, Jung also explored something he called the shadow side, the subconscious mind, and discussed how to do shadow work. I am certainly not an expert on Jung's archetypes, but I think I understand the concept to some degree. Archetypes can be good or evil using human terminology. And every person has all of them inside, from being angelic to the worst person perceivable. But we choose who we are, which archetype we want to focus on, and that becomes our primary personality. When the dark side inside us knocks on the door, we can choose not to open and instead open another door where a more benevolent archetype resides that better serves us positively. We are what we focus on, and what we focus on is our choice, even when it is difficult to choose. So if we possess a trait we do not like, we can hold back and change it to something we like. This is exactly what my 20-day program is all about. Be kind to others, respect them, and do not be abusive or derogatory. Many people feel sorry for their abusers or their narcissists, but the abusers know what is right and wrong, regardless of how innocent they say they are. They are fast to point out laws they are fast to point out flaws and wrongdoings in others and judge them for it, while they themselves are doing the same things and even more worse, but covertly. They know right from wrong, but they choose to do evil. They would genuinely choose a more benevolent archetype. I'm sorry, if they would genuinely choose a more benevolent archetype and focus on it, they could over time become better people and therefore more loved. But they rigidly stick to a destructive archetype, and it is always by choice. We are our choices. Made a bad choice, well, just make a better one next time. The same applies to the overlords. Fortunately, Orion knows this. The overlords have chosen to stick to a very destructive archetype. According to psychology professor Sam Vacken, Jung is no longer taught in psychology classes. That is interesting. Is it because if people knew too much about archetypes, the elite would have a harder time implementing a narcissistic society? It certainly makes you wonder, doesn't it? So it is an interesting chapter, this chapter 10. I now go to chapter 12, the different kinds of humans. Human biorobots and the astral circuit boards. What most people probably do not think about is that our Homo sapiens sapiens bodies are in actuality biorobots. Today, there is much talk about humans merging with the machine, becoming cyborgs. Yes, this is rapidly happening, but it is nothing new. We know Enki reconstructed the second construct, Homo sapiens bodies, when he isolated Earth and made it his own matrix. Still, the second construct also happened in a semi-physical density, not as solid as the matrix, but still physical. It was probably more in line with life in other developing worlds. The lifespan was usually much longer. Yet people died. We were still biorobots on the physical plane. If this comes as a shock, and before we blame Enki for this, it is nothing extraordinary if we think about it. We do not need to have bodies that are for more than bio-robotic when living in the physical universe. It is not much different from playing a computer game. So the avatar in the game do not need to be biological to fill the purpose. Of course, Enki limited our perspectives 96-fold, and he gave us deliberately amnesia and the recycling program. And that, in my opinion, are hideous crimes. But creating bio-robotic bodies in general is not. The Queen of the Stars does that too, and so do other creators. When they create new worlds in the physical realm, I would seriously argue that our brains in the astral body are a metaphysical circuit board, not very dissimilar from a computer circuit board. And this circuit board manifests as a physical brain in the 3D sapiens body. What is important is the consciousness that animates the physical bodies. The bodies themselves in these lower realms are just tools or vessels, making it possible to navigate through solid matter. When the overlords are doing now, however, is to upgrade, or I would say downgrade, our current biorobotic bodies so we can function in the nanoverse, which is Wes Penry's alternative term for the Orion universe. This is, of course, what is at the bottom of all this nanotechnology we hear about daily. So when we talk about becoming cyborgs, it is not incorrect, but it would probably be more correct to say we are going from one bio-robotic body to another, which also is going to be so-called immortal. If something happens to those bodies, any organ can be exchanged easily with nanotechnology and 3D printing. With this brief introduction in mind, we can dig into the different humans that are inhabiting the Earth. This is based on research, dot plotting, and observation, and it might not be 100% correct in all the details, but I think it is overall accurate. Usually, we cannot distinguish between these types of humans just by their looks. These types all host sapiens bodies like yours and mine. The difference is on another plane of existence. So, list of different humans. Keeping in mind that this list might not be complete, I will mention the kinds I have stumbled upon, read about, and have discussed this with the Orion source. So 1, 3-unit composites, humans. To qualify as human, we must comprise soul, mind, and spirit body. So in this matrix, most people are almost fully disconnected from their spirit body. However, and operate mostly on a soul-mind level as a 2-unit composite. Those who operate on that level still qualify as humans because they still possess spirit, even though they might be disconnected from it. 2. The 2-unit composite plus. I put this category here as well, though we cannot know for sure whether there are such beings here. If there are, they might be difficult to distinguish from humans in the matrix. So these are a group of humans based on 2-unit composites with access to spirit. Three two-unit composites, soul minds without spirit body. These are Orion ETs who were hijacked by the overlords when they came too close to Earth. The overlords sucked them into a syringe and they were caught up in the recycling process like the rest of us. These are beings who developed in the physical realm but left their home world and became non-physical. They have yet to gain spirit in the Ka, so they are still not creators. 4. Artificial souls, what is also known as non-player characters or NPCs. There are debates about what these beings really are and what animates them if they are not soul-minds. We, we, even kijken hoor. The following is my current view on what they might be, based on logic gained from what we already know about Earth and the astral and have discussed thus far in this book. I would say that these sapiens bodies are animated by the artificial souls only. There are no three-unit composites between brackets players investing their consciousness in these astral avatars, astral bodies. I suggest these sapiens are completely programmed to function as artificial humans. These artificial souls are incarnated here to create distractions, mayhem, havoc, and confusion. They are completely of the matrix and cannot function outside the Earth grid. They are the astral body plus technological programming. Although we should not generalize, it is probably okay to suggest that most people who are extremely shallow seem to be able to speak on most subjects on a superficial level and ridicule those who think outside the matrix are NPCs. These are often the ones you cannot have a spiritual conversation with because they will laugh at you and call you airheaded or something similar. They do not believe in an afterlife properly, so because they do not have one and they cannot look inward. They are extroverts, although, of course, far from all extroverts are NPCs. These beings are pre-programmed in the astral not to rebel against the system unless they are programmed to rebel. Therefore, the mundane, very physical person and the agent Smith type could be two sides of the same coin. What they have in common is that they are reliable, they follow the instructions of the overlords programmed them with, and the programmers know the NPCs will complete their mission as planned. What about narcissists and psychopaths? Are they NPCs? Not necessarily, although some of them might be. I think psychology has it correctly for the most part when they tell us how narcissists are created, although they are still quite confused about the psychopaths, whether they were created in childhood or if it is genetic. What I have observed from listening to psychologists is that there is a certain percentage of narcissists and psychopaths that can't be explained away with traditional methods as a terrible childhood. In some cases, it seems the person was born that way. This percentage could hypothetically be programmed NPCs. An example of this is all the school shootings. Most of those are executed identically, ending with the killers killing themselves not to be caught, or perhaps they make sure the police shoot them because they shoot at the police. The bottom line is that the NPCs are most likely programmed AI that the overlords can make sentient enough to animate a body, or they are using random soul energy they have stored in the astral energy they have programmed accordingly. It is completely possible for AI to run a biological machine like our physical sapiens bodies. But even though these NPCs can act just as convincing as genuine souls' minds, we recognize them because they lack inner insight and creative abilities. They are superficial, can be very intelligent, besser wissers, being able to talk on many subjects and even reach top positions in organizations, but they have little to no imagination. Haven't we all met at least a few of those in our lives? I would argue there are a lot of these people around. It is important, however, that we are careful with labeling people NPCs. I am confident there are humans who by now are so programmed through age-long manipulation that they think all that exists is what we can perceive with the five senses. The difference is that these humans might at least have some grasp that there could be something more than this reality, but they might not believe in it. They have become too solid and attached to this world over times. And then number five, cloned beings. We hear a lot about cloning. Cloning is ancient, 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 old, and is not new, especially from whistleblowers who have been part of or are still part of the secret space program. With technology, they can now create doppelgangers into which they can transfer the consciousness from the original human. This clone can then apparently function even outside the dome, like the Greys and perhaps the so-called reptilian Dracos, both being cyborgs inhabited by Syrian and other ET races, two unit composites within the secret space program. It seems these clones are used temporarily when these so-called, between quotation marks, super soldiers are being hijacked and mind controlled to go on a mission. When the mission is over, they are transferred back to the original body, while the clone is apparently put in stasis until the next time. But then there are rumors, which seem to be true, that many prominent politicians and others have clones too. These work differently because in these cases their original consciousness is not transferred. If the original person is still alive, the clone is used as a substitute for one reason or another. We saw Hillary Clinton's clone malfunctioning a few years ago when her cloned body got a hiccup and started jerking, acting like a malfunctioning robot. Her guards were quick to get her into the car before she completely stopped working. That was on international TV. Something like this cloning technique could be used for NPCs as well. After all, the overlords have our metaverse clones already made. Again, after all, the overlords have our metaverse clones already made without us being aware of it, ready to go, thanks to all the information we have shared online since the internet started and we got smartphones, etc. I know from others that when you scroll over your phone, a piece of your consciousness is being sucked into the singularity dash metaverse. And it's every time when you are being busy online. It is more than likely that the overlords can steal soul energy, program it, and put it into an artificial soul, i.e., a tailor-made astral body. The globe elite and their bloodlines, the sixth group. During my West Penry paper years, I was told I should be grateful I am not of a pure elite bloodline because they will be the first to be disposed of. In the West Penry papers, I discussed how Enki, in the second construct, created the Brotherhood of the Snake, where snake stands for wisdom. He recruited the most intelligent humans around, and with his glib tongue, Enki manipulated these humans to think they were special. So he gave them knowledge about the universe and he handed them esoteric knowledge such as, between quotation marks, magic, i.e., how to tame and control energy and how to manipulate other people's energy. These beings are like the Nazguls in the Lord of the Rings. They are, between quotation marks, immortal but tormented, and they serve only one master, dash Enki. They are immortal in the sense that when they reincarnate, they do not go through the between lives area, and therefore they have most of their memories intact when they reincarnate into the same bloodline. The rest, their parents can fill in. These pure elite seed lines, if pure, are easy to possess. Therefore, Marduk and Enki are very strict with keeping the elite bloodlines pure, so they can be possessed by them, but also by others. And who are these others? They are the Syrians, the so-called Nomoms, who I mentioned in the West Penry papers. They were locked up by Khan Enlil inside the Black Sun in the Sirius star system after they had committed serious crimes, and they were stripped of their creative abilities and could only float around inside their prison aimlessly. These Syrians were Enki's cohorts, and they were trapped in the beginning of the third construct, the Matrix. However, Enki wanted them back, but he could not free them completely. Instead, he let these beings possess the global elite, using technology to accomplish this. So these elites high in the bloodline hierarchy are possessed by Syrians. There is still a human 3-unit composite in there, but the Syrians have taken over their bodies and they become so-called walk-ins, exactly in the same manner they plan to do with all of us in the metaverse. So now we get to understand the whole sinister meaning about the entire metaverse, and that this metaverse is not built for our best interest. It is the opposite. These nomos or nomos are already riding human avatars through the top elite. So we need to ask questions about all these precedents in the world and all the precedents we have seen in history. Were they really what they were? Or were they possessed humans? And look at the world leaders nowadays and the level of evilness that they are committing. We need to ask questions. Could it be that these persons are completely being taken over and are carrying a walk in a Syrian? Could it be that this Trump guy is maybe not whom we think it is and is in actuality completely possessed by a Syrian walk-in or another being of complete dark and evilness? We need to think all about this. We need to start questions. We need to start question everything we see and that is happening around us. So also these people whom are so-called world leaders, what are they inside? They look human from the outside. They speak like a human. They walk like a human. But what are they inside? These nomos are already riding human avatars through the top elite. They cannot take a human body, so they need a real human 3-unit composite hosting the body, or at least a 2-unit composite. Also, they are what we humans call demons. They are the nomos, shape-shifting into form in the astral. This doesn't necessarily mean that Bill Gates and those on his level are nomos, although some of them might be. I am talking about higher in the hierarchy. And with this said, I have come to the end of reading chapter 10 and chapter 12 of the Orion book, volume 2, written by Wes Penry. I have added a picture of the cover of the book in the main picture itself. Please go to all the links in the text box. Please go to Wes Penry's websites. There's another website you can go to where there is a web page completely dedicated to Wes Penry, his work, his books, where you can for free download PDFs so you can read about some topics. There are free to download PDFs of the first level of learning Wes Penry papers to the 6th levels of learning. All right. I hope that this information wakes my fellow brothers and sisters up to the reality that we are in. I do this work to pass on to all of you the information that we need to know to get a deeper understanding of what is truly happening to us, with us, to this world, and with this world, so we can see through all the lies, deceptions, and illusions. And so we can start taking back our sovereignty, our free will, and more important, also can stimulate other fellow brothers and sisters to stand as a human soul group and say enough is enough and do a collective cry toward Orion and ask Orion to intervene on behalf of us. They do not do this on personal basis. We need to do this as a human soul group in togetherness. So let us wake up and help our fellow human souls in our human soul group to also wake up and to stand, and that we in togetherness stand as a group and are crying out to Orion for help and intervene for us and on behalf of us, so that this horrendous type of life in this prison system can finally cease to exist and can stop. Um, all right. I want to thank you so much for listening to all this information, for listening along while I was reading it to you. And I wish you all a beautiful, joyful day filled with a lot of love, wisdom, truth, and revelations. And as last, I will say, let us listen to a very short piece of music called Hope and created by Band Sound. Thank you so much and have a good weekend.